The Pimax Crystal Super is a remarkable achievement, and really it is the best value PC VR flight simulation headset on the market. However, it's not without its problems, and in this video I'm going to give you my 5 top things I really do hate about this headset. So let's go. The first one is the size. I mean, it must be said, in a world of shrinking VR headsets, it is a bit of a beast, and especially if you like moving your head around really fast, say in a dogfight, or say you're sim racing in a motion rig, you will feel that inertia. Now don't get me wrong, the Crystal Super is actually a very comfortable headset, but I do recommend that you get a top strap for it or a studio form balancer kit, because it is a big heavy headset. There's no getting away from that, and when compared to say the Meganex Superlight 8K and the Big Screen Beyond version 2, it does look a bit ridiculous, it has to be said. But the reason why it's so large is because it houses those beautiful glass aspheric lenses, which provides masses of light into your eyeballs, let alone decent field of view as well, especially if you go for the ultra wide edition. And you have to consider that just because a headset is large, it does not mean it's uncomfortable. In fact, many smaller VR headsets do suffer with comfort because they don't have a decent enough strap to go with it, because manufacturers are too worried about a massive strap on a tiny little VR headset. It just looks really strange. But companies like Big Screen and Meganex are producing a Halo style design, which does make the headset look larger, which arguably trades the aesthetic and sleek design for a more comfortable experience. And in my opinion, comfort is number one when it comes to VR. But in any case, it has to be said that the Crystal Super is a behemoth of a headset, and if you have a weak neck, or you're really sensitive to anything large on your head, then I wouldn't recommend going this route. Right, let's get to number 2 of my top 5 things I hate about the Crystal Super, and that is, drum roll please, quality control. It's still a thing. Damn it, Pimax. Oh, God's sake. Yes, I'm going to moan about this once again. And that's because obviously I do have a thriving Discord. And it's really good to know what the real consensus is from these mass-produced Crystal Supers. Now, there is a new quality control process at Pimax where there's a guy that ticks off a variety of different aspects of the device before it goes and ships. But unfortunately, there are some reports of stuck IPD motors that could be related to the transport of the modules or optical engines. Also, reports of dead pixels as well. The thing is about dead pixels these days is because the lenses can resolve so much of that panel, no stone is left unturned, and you'll be surprised that probably a lot of your VR headsets you have right now, especially ones in the past, will probably have some dead pixels. It's just that we've got to a point now that the glass lenses of the Crystal Super are so incredibly clear, you can spot the most minor imperfections. So it's kind of a good and bad thing at the same time. But credit where credit is due with Pimax, I'm seeing a lot less problems than I did with the Crystal Light when it was first released. So they are getting a handle on this. But please, Pimax, keep improving that quality control, because without that, well, the headset is completely useless. You're going to get a bad name for yourself, and actually this year, I feel like you're killing it for the VR community. The Crystal Super has so much potential, and especially with all of these optical engines. Talking of which, I will have the micro OLED optical engine for review very soon. But anyway, that is my number 2. Number 3. And actually, I've just realised these aren't in any particular order of importance. So sorry about that, folks. But in any case, the third thing that is on the list for me, of course, is Mura. It's probably the number 1 most annoying thing, actually, about the Crystal Super. But what is Mura? Well, essentially, it is the panel brightness or pixel brightness inconsistencies between each pixel, and when you've got 29 million pixels or whatever it is, there is going to be some variation in the pixel brightness, and that causes well, I guess a grainy or dirty window effect. Unfortunately, with this type of display, with this 50 ppd QLED display, the same which Vario uses, there is a bit of a issue, I guess, with that technology, and you can get some quite sort of awful faint lines down the display. Now, it's not as bad as the Tiger Stripes with the Vario XR4, the one I have anyway, but they will vary in terms of that dirty window effect. If you can see it when looking down at the ground, then it's far too strong, but when looking at a plain white background, perhaps say the sky with a few puffy clouds, if you can see it a little bit, then that's within tolerance, and it's one of those trade-offs you get, unfortunately, with this incredibly high PPD QLED display. Nevertheless though, if it's something that you cannot stand, and I must admit I'm in that camp as well, I do absolutely detest Miura, it's one of the reasons why I love micro OLED so much, then I would recommend going with the micro OLED optical engine, I guess. I mean, I haven't tried it yet, but so far it's looking like it's going to be probably the best module out there. I can't wait to try it. But you are going to sacrifice brightness and field of view. So pick your poison, folks. We have not got a headset that does it all. But you could argue the Super does it all if you have different optical engines depending on your mood. That can get a bit pricey though. The next thing I hate about the Pimax Crystal Super is, well, it's the microphone, folks. It's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but I did expect something a lot better. When you hear the microphone of the Big Screen Beyond and the Meganex, they just sound so professional. In fact, they sound better than the microphone I'm using to record this video. But with the Crystal Super, it just sounds quite tinny, very, you know, monotone. It's such a shame in such a high-end headset as the Crystal Super, and I appreciate it is an amazing value headset, very cheap for what you're getting. They had to cut corners somewhere, but as a content creator, I just wish it did sound a bit better. So I'm getting a bit picky here now, but the last thing on my list today is the mixed reality, or perhaps lack of mixed reality. The thing is about the Crystal Super is it's not really touted to be an MR headset, so it's a little bit unfair saying this, but I am kind of struggling now for things that I don't like about the Super. But the MR, well, it's just using those tracking cameras, so I guess it's great to have it in case you need to quickly look into the outside world, but I think you're better off just taking the headset off for a few seconds, doing what you need to do and put it back on again, because that very grainy black and white image is absolute trash. But I do believe they might be an MR faceplate down the road at some point. I guess we'll have to see. But those are my top 5 things that I hate about the Crystal Super. That is the Miura, which I really do hate. The quality control issues, which is annoying and just, you know, it just takes the shine off what is essentially a phenomenal headset. The size of the headset, which can't be helped. It is comfortable though, but it is a bit of a beast. The microphone and the MR. I think maybe as another one, the build quality of the headset, it's okay, but it's not stellar. Again, I think this has to be understood with the price of the headset. You can't have both. You can't have something that is Apple Vision Pro-esque, you know, in terms of its build quality, or Somnium VR1 levels of build quality at this kind of price point. It's just impossible. But it is a little bit plasticky. You know, if you did drop it, I think it would break. So please be careful with it. Having said that, I don't think it's gonna, you know, break as long as you look after it for many, many years. So the Crystal Super continues to be the best value PC VR flight simulation headset. I friggin' love it. I think it's an absolute amazing achievement by Pimax. But don't get me wrong, there is some things that are a pain and I don't like, such as those things I've mentioned. For the things I love, well, there's so many things. Oh my god, the incredible clarity, the beautiful glass spheric lenses, the modularity of the device. You know, you can have a massive ultra-wide model with great field of view, or you can go for the crazy pin-sharp 57 ppd module. I still think the 50 ppd standard is probably the best of those three. You can even have a micro OLED variant, which I'm looking forward to trying, as I've just mentioned before. Also, in terms of the audio, it's fantastic with that floating DMAS speaker design. I think the software is fantastic. You've got eye tracking, so you've got dynamic foveated rendering support for MSFS 2024 DCS World. You know, it really works very, very well. I think the software is really good now. Smart smoothing is still a bit of a contentious one, but overall the OpenXR integration is fantastic. At the end of the day, it is a flight simulation dream of a headset for the money. It really is, and I highly recommend it. In fact, it is my top pick for 2025 so far for flight simulation. And these top 5 things aren't deal breakers for me, so long as you get a decent Crystal Super. And remember, you do have that 14-day trial period where you can actually just return the headset. So long as you get a good one, you are going to enjoy it for many years to come. Thanks for watching. As always, please feel free to subscribe. I do have a nominal discount, which I always forget to mention in my videos. So if you want to buy a Crystal Super through the channel, it would be much appreciated, but no pressure. Take care, and I'll see you again for the next one very soon. Bye-bye for now.